Comfort in the low back often depends on how tight our hamstrings are. And very tight hamstrings can make a very kyphotic lumbar spine. To achieve a more lordotic, a nice natural curve in the low back, it's important to lengthen the hamstrings. In this practice, we'll be working on some strengthening, but mostly lengthening of the hamstrings to ensure more comfort in your lumbar spine. We'll begin with our legs up against the wall. You might want a little cushion under your pelvis. You may want to bend your knees to promote curve in the low back as we start in this practice. As we begin the practice with our legs up the wall, see if you can engage your legs nicely by spreading your toes. As you spread your toes, draw the right thigh just a little bit closer to you. Maybe interlace your fingers behind the thigh. Again, your knee can be slightly bent if this feels like too much for you, and see if you can create just a little bit of space between the low back and the mat. Release your foot down. Do the same with the opposite leg. Draw the interlaced fingers right at the belly of the hamstring. As you reach your heel high and spread your toes, and try to obtain just a little bit more space between the low back and the mat. Release your foot down. And just pause here. Release your arms to the side. Close your eyes for a moment. See if you can, with both legs supported by the wall, again, with your knees bent if you wish, but with your feet very engaged, with your toes spread. Take a few moments to just focus on your low back. You may want to bend your knees just a little bit more in order to get a lot of arch to the low back. And now as you slide your heels up the wall slightly, just reach the navel back toward the spine. So it's a little cat-cow on our back. We'll bend the knees and slide the heels down to get a lot of curve in the low back. And now come towards straight legs. And you'll see that naturally the spine just moves back toward the mat. 3 more times. Bend your knees. Draw your navel forward. And exhale. Slide your heels up. Bend your knees. Get plenty of curve. Really exaggerate it. Now slide your heels up. And last time, bend your knees and slide your heels up. Now come to what feels like the natural curve of the low back. So you really exaggerated the curve on the last moves. Just find that middle point where you've got a nice natural curve there. Bend your right knee. For lots of hip flexion, see if you can grab hold of the big toe on the right leg. If not, you can just hold on to the shin. Just reach your right foot out to the right side for a little flexibility in the inner groin area. Reach it out. Come toward a straight leg. But if you feel like the left hip is lifting up, see if you can just back off a little bit, bend the knee a little bit. Release back to the center position and slide the right heel up the wall. As you bend the left knee, just draw the left thigh really close to the outer left ribs. Find your big toe with your middle finger and your index finger, hook the toe, and be sure that the big toe is hooking the fingers as well. You want that feeling that the toe is really engaged. Now reach your left foot out to the left side. And just feel a little stretch in the inner groin area as you maintain a nice balance action with your hip. So your left hip is not taking your right hip completely out of alignment. You're trying to keep the hip points parallel. As you reach your left foot to the side, see about stretching out the left leg a little bit more. Come back to the center position and release your foot to the wall again. Pause here, release your arms with your palms lifted up, with your toes engaged, with the heels slightly higher than the toes. So you're really working the back side of the leg and with a nice lumbar curve. See how you can exaggerate that by drawing the tops of the thighs back toward the wall. Breathe in deep and breathe out long. Bend your knees, draw over to the right side, lift yourself up. Let's come to a lunge position. I like using the blocks for the runner's lunge because it has a nice way of keeping a nice elongation in the spine. So come to the tallest height of your blocks, if you've got them, and step your right foot right between your hands. Inch your toes forward, but walk your blocks back. So the blocks are roughly right under your shoulders. Lift your toes up, pull in from the right heel to the pelvis. Draw your heart forward as you pull the right heel back, almost like you're trying to slide the heel back on the mat. Keep the front leg engaged and active. Now bend the knee, park your foot down, walk your blocks forward just to support you so that you can give your back thigh a nice stretch here. We'll do this a few more times. Straighten the front leg, lift your toes up, spread your toes up, line your blocks right under your shoulders, and extend the heart forward as you take the top of the thigh back. Again, walk your blocks forward, drop in a little bit deeper. Walk the blocks back, lift your toes up. Just reach your heart forward as you drill the right heel in, but pull it isometrically back. You'll feel the kneecap engage. Feels like the kneecap is lifting. Now let's change sides. Take your left foot forward, lift your left toes up. Let's get a nice alignment, shoulders over the hands as you draw your heart forward, and just check it out on this side. So the leg doesn't have to be straight. You can bend the knee slightly as you work the foot and you pull back from the heel. You then rise up. Again, bend your knee. Come to the low lunge. Shift back. Lift your toes up. Align your hands with your shoulders. Draw forward. Bend your knee. Drop in. And the repetitions just allow you to just go a little bit deeper each time you do this. Lift your toes up, draw back from the heel to the pelvis. This very easy movement, this very slow flow of the lunges here to wake up the hips and to create more length in the back side of the leg. You lift your toes up, spread your toes, reach your heart forward. Come back now to downward facing dog. As you lift up to downward facing dog, look at your hands, spread your fingers nicely so you have a nice foundation. Bend your knees so that you can get a nice curve in your lumbar spine. Lift your sit bones high. Draw your right heel down. Draw your left heel down. And were you able to keep the nice curve in the spine? Keep the fullness in your downward facing dog. Walk your hands back to your feet to come to Uttanasana. In Uttanasana, bend your right knee and come toward a straight left leg. Bend your left leg and come toward a straight right leg. And again, bend your right knee, come toward straight left leg. Bend your left, straighten your right. One more. Bend your right, straighten your left. Straighten your right, bend your left. Now bend both knees. Place your hands to your low back. Rise up and come to stand. So grab your blocks and step your right foot right between the blocks, just as we did with the runner's lunge, with the right foot forward, the left foot back. Place your blocks down and keep your back heel rooted firmly for Parsvottanasana. Bend your right knee, keep your back heel rooted, come toward a straight leg, and just draw your heart forward as you keep on reaching through the back heel. Bend your right knee again. Exhale, come toward a straight right leg. Bend your knee. Keep rooting down through that back heel so that you get a nice stretch in the Achilles tendon and the calf muscle, and straighten the right leg. Now step your back foot forward. Park your back heel. Turn your right toes in as you press your hands to the tall blocks. Maintaining a strong rootedness in the right heel. Just draw forward and pulse up and draw down and lift up and draw down and lift up. Root down through the back foot to lift yourself up out of the pose. Step your back foot forward. Now take a wide stance. In a wide stance, bend your knees slightly. Take your inner thighs back and apart so you get a natural curve in the spine. Place your hands down. You can bend your knees quite a bit if you wish. Walk your hands over to the left side. Stack your right hand on top of your left. As you bend your right knee, take the top of the left thigh back. Soften here. Shift back to the centered position. Bend both knees. In fingertip top position, walk your fingers over to the right side. Straighten the left leg. Bend the right knee more. Stack your left hand on top of the right and draw down. Come back to the center position with both knees slightly bent, with the hands wider apart than shoulder width. Draw forward and down. Now heel toe your feet in toward each other. Place your hands to your low back and rise up. Let's balance a little bit and see if we can engage both a nice contraction to the back side of the legs, to the hamstring, so an engagement, and a nice lengthening action in the balance. If you'd like to get off your mat, please do. Off the mat can be sometimes so much more accessible. As you balance on your left leg, lift up your right leg and just pull in for a nice hip flexion again. Now keep the knee bent and draw the knee back now for hip extension. And as you do, with your right hand to the back side of the leg, feel how that engagement starts to tone the muscle nicely. Now see if you can keep that engagement as you draw into hip flexion again and extend the leg out. We'll do that again. Bend your knee, draw in, reach the knee back, try to stay balanced on one leg, or just take your hand to a wall or a chair. We're mostly just working on toning the hamstrings. Lift your knee up again, reach out with full engagement. Bend your knee and release down. I like putting my hand right on the muscle because I can start to feel that engagement, and when I lose it, I can feel a little softness going on. So see if you can discern that engagement on the left leg. So as you take more weight to the right leg, lift your left knee up and just pull it in for nice hip flexion. Your toes are very engaged. With the hand just to the belly of the hamstring, can you feel as you take your knee back, can you feel that engagement of the thigh? Lift your knee forward. It gets a little soft here, but can you engage more fully as you reach it out? One more time. Pull in, reach the knee back, lift your knee up for hip flexion, reach out, and slowly take the foot down. Now let's do that same engagement that we did in the balance pose in Setubandha sarvangasana, or bridge pose. Lie on your back with your knees bent. First find the natural curve, little space between your low back and the mat. With your knees bent and your feet planted, pull your heels toward your pelvis. And notice how the pelvic points lift. You get much more curve and you feel the backside of the legs engage nicely. Release from that action and just kind of notice how the spine settles toward the earth. Do that 2 more times. Pull your feet in. Lift your pelvic points up, get more curve. Exhale and release. Again, it's like cat-cow, but on your back. Pull your heels in, Feel the engagement of the backs of the thighs and release, just building a little bit more strength in the lumbar curve here. Pull your heels in, get the nice curve, release. Now let's do that same action while lifting the pelvis up. So pull from your heels to your pelvis. Keep that. Lift your pelvis up. Keep that. Now let's see how we've been able to engage so fully. Now, keeping the left leg very engaged, hamstring drawing in, can you park your elbows firmly down as you lift your right leg up? Spread your toes, root down through the left foot to lift your right foot higher. Release your right foot to the mat. Release your pelvis to the mat. Release your arms. Once again, 3 pulsations of really engaging the hamstrings. With your heels pressing down, pull toward the pelvis. You feel the belly lifting and you release. Again, you pull the heels toward the pelvis and release. One more time, really create a nice structure, a nice strength to the lumbar spine as you pull your heels in. You keep that action. Lift the pelvis up, keeping that strong action. Park your elbows firmly down to lift your heart nicely, with the right leg still pulling in, with the right foot still pulling in toward the heart. Lift your left leg up, spread your toes to get nice tone. Keep pulling in from the right heel all the way to the heart. Reach your left leg up higher. Slowly release your left foot down and release your pelvis down. Release your arms. Extend your legs. Close your eyes. Just enjoy nice ease in Savasana. We practice how to contract and expand and lengthen the hamstrings as a way to create just a bit more ease in our lumbar spine. A little bit more comfort. Just working on both strength and length of the hamstrings. You feel a bit more tone in the lumbar area. As you take your attention to your breath, just allow this time to assimilate the actions. To the many teachings that the yoga brings us. we honor these teachings. Namaste.